So we are reading Aghora, the left hand of God. We are on chapter 5, Mentors.
Nature
Page
is
number,
very
yeah, page number 68 of the PDF and 131 of the book.
mentors. Nature is very kind to me. In fact, as my friend Faram used to say, nature is cockeyed to me. And that is because of my mentors. My mentors were very good. That's all I can say. My mentors were very good. Maybe it's true I was meant by nature to succeed at all my sadhanas, but my mentors triggered me up and made me succeed. They were too good.
So again, mentors means guide, people who support you in your endeavors. Now, of course, finding a good guru, finding a good mentor is a very difficult job. So, communities like ours, where we support each other, we grow with each other, this actually becomes very important in today's day and age.
My three mentors. I met my senior Guru Maharaj after I left Banaras, where I had been doing sadhana of Mahakal on Manikarnika Ghat. I had heard that in Girnar, a mountain in the Saurashtra peninsula of Gujarat, Dattatreya, an immortal ascetic, was still living, and that if you tried hard enough and were destined for it, you could meet him. I had to go and find out if it could be true. I went to Junagadh by train, and when I arrived at the foot of the mountain, I decided to stay at the Nawab's guest house. At that time, the Nawab of Junagadh had jurisdiction over Girnar. I would go on the mountain during the day and return for my food and rest to the guest house. That is the sort of luxury I was used to. After all, I am a billionaire's son. We will have to pause for 1 second because it's going gold. Decided that I should move out onto the mountain itself, since I had not come to Girnar for a holiday but to do sadhana. I located an old deserted Shiva temple and moved in there. It was situated in such a way that by sitting in front of it, no animal could surprise me from behind. In front of me, I would build my dhuni, the sadhu's fire, so I was protected all around because animals won't come near a fire. I started eating only what the sadhus ate at the Sadavarats. These are places established by rich merchants to feed whoever comes by as a sort of service. I took off all my clothes and walked around without a stitch. I took off, sorry. At first, I covered myself with my hands, but after a while, I lost all my shame. Eventually, I quit eating with the other sadhus and started eating nothing but fruit from trees in the jungle. Before long, I realized that I was harming the trees by plucking their fruit, so I ate only what fell. Then I ate the leaves from the wood I would cut for my dhuni, then only fallen leaves, then only water. And finally, I was living on nothing but air until afterward an ethereal being told me to start eating again.
So again, once you see, shame has a propensity. Once you start doing something, you get used to it, then it doesn't feel shameful anymore. It's a matter of getting used to. And then over here, as far as eating goes, ultimately we can even live without eating. We can live on air. We had a gentleman, Elitom. He came and he says that he has hardly eaten anything for the last 20 years, a breatharian, right? And he's absolutely healthy and fit. So actually, we can draw energy from the ethers. We can draw energy from the earth and sustain ourselves. That's what our Rishi Munis actually could do and used to do. So that's what he's saying. That first he used to eat with the other sadhus, then only the fruits, then by eating the leaves and from the wood, and then nothing but air until some altered uh, some ethereal being came and told him that you need to eat.
Just as I had been doing in Bombay and Benares, I spent most of my time in the smashan. One day, a funeral party had brought the body of a young man to be burnt. While I was watching the tearful relatives arranging the pyre, I noticed a thin fakir standing nearby. Very thin, just like a skeleton. As I watched, he walked over to the boy's parents and said, "What do you people think you are doing? This boy is not dead, he is just asleep." The boy's father looked at him and said, "Why are you trying to interfere? Are you God or something that you can bring the dead back to life? Get out of here before I have you thrown out." But the fakir insisted that the boy was not dead, and I suppose that he insisted a little too much, because then the boy's father hit him across the side of the head and a few drops of blood trickled down. The old fakir wiped his forehead, saw the blood, looked at the man, and said, "So you've made me red. Now I'll make this a red letter day for you." He walked over to the corpse and said, "Get up." He gave it a nice kick. The corpse sat up. Well, you should have seen the condition of the members of that funeral party. They ran as if they were being pursued by ghosts. I said to myself, "Oh, this fellow has something." The old man came over to me and took out his chillam and filled it with ganja, marijuana flowers. He offered it to me first, but I requested him to ignite it. When he inhaled, a flame a foot high leapt from the chillam.
Okay, so now this is also an important part, right? When an evolved person lights the chillum can really start flaring up. Okay, it doesn't normally flare up when a normal person lights the chillum. That's why he writes it over here, a flame a foot high leapt from the chillum.
When you're wandering as a sadhu, you run into all types of people. Many criminals masquerade as sadhus or fakirs in order to escape the police, and the police, in order to catch such criminals, masquerade in the same way. Then there are men who run away from nagging wives or heavy debts or some other responsibility. There are magicians and men who cheat barren couples with promises of children and the whole flotsam and jetsam of society. When you become a sadhu, you must be able to know who is genuine and who is not. And the best way to do that is with a chilam of charas or ganja, because most sadhus are forbidden to drink.
Okay, so so the idea here is that to be able to discern whether a person is a genuine aesthetic or not, this becomes very difficult in today's society. But one way that I have seen is look at the eyes of the sadhu, and the eyes say a lot. Okay, whenever a person is in an altered state, there is a look which comes in the eyes, and when you see them, and their eyes are very still also, generally speaking, when you see an evolved person, they'll be able to stare you down, right? The eyes don't move too much. And it's always said, that the eyes are the windows to the soul. So you can actually watch the eyes of a person to understand at what level of consciousness that person is operating at.
Be sure to let that fellow light the chillam and take the first puff. You will be benefited in so many ways. First, he will get the fire going for you so that you don't have to inhale too hard. Second, by his technique of holding the chillum and inhaling, you will know whether he is an old crony or a beginner or just what. And as soon as he starts to get into his intoxication, everything will come out: who he is, why he is moving about as a sadhu, where he is going.
So, it is said that if you want to know about someone, have a drink with that person. So, this is like the same thing happening in an esoteric way where you have a ganja pipe with the person rather than having a drink with the person.
I'll give you an example. Once I was out in Girnar and I happened to meet a strange sadhu. As usual, we sat down to smoke, and before long, I began to collect information from him. When he told me he was from Rajasthan, I immediately suspected something because people from that state are well known as misers instead of sadhus. I shifted the conversation slightly and came up with the information that he hated to beg. Another clue. Would someone who had plenty of money and position in society ever stoop to beg? So he must have been a prosperous merchant since people from Rajasthan are good at business. My last bit of data was obtained when he told me, "This ganja has made me hungry. Let's go down and get something to eat." I was convinced here was a businessman who had left his family, perhaps because he lost his money, though that was not certain. I decided to rid Girnar of one more false sadhu and told him, "Swamiji, I am so pleased to have met you. I want to give you something in return. Take this number and bet on it." He did, and he won a packet. He left Girnar and returned to his family and business. Would a real sadhu ever think of gambling? Never. Anyway, when a foot high flame rose from this sadhu's chillum, I knew he was a veteran. He said to me, "So, you have come from Bombay." And then he went on to tell me about my family, my life, and most everything else. And then asked, "Do you know who I am?"
So now, when a person is an evolved soul, nothing is hidden from them. Okay. We may think that we'll hide, but nothing is hidden. Everything is available if you have eyes to see, ears to hear, nose to smell, and skin to feel. Right? You can't hide anything. Okay. So he's an evolved soul, this sadhu. So he told him his entire story. I used to have this with Dr. Bani Ramji. He used to keep telling me all sorts of things. But I've never found anyone else like him.
Now, some ethereal being, had told me who he was. And when I told the old man who he was so amazed that he had to keep quiet. I became his disciple.
So again, Vimalanand also is getting intuition. So he could also tell him about him.
He eats sometimes, but only when he feels like it. He does love to drink tea though. His eyes, which never blink, are only things which would give him away. They are much sharper than an eagle's. Otherwise, he looks completely nondescript, and he is the shrewdest old man possible. If he wants to trick you, he'll do it in such a way that he'll have you admiring him for it. And if he wants to make you rich, nothing can stand in his way.
So
There was
again over here, again I said, you look at the eyes of the person. Number one, the eyes will be non-wavering and they will blink less than what a normal person blinks.
there was a friend of mine who owned 3 cars and was a well-to-do businessman. As his destiny would have it, he fell on hard times and had to hawk all 3 of his automobiles. My senior Guru Maharaj had come to Bombay then, and one fine day decided he wanted to go for a drive. I immediately thought of my friend and told him, "This is your golden opportunity. Take my senior Guru Maharaj out for a drive and then he'll do anything for you." My friend laughed and said, "I don't have a car anymore." I told him, "Beg, borrow, or steal, but locate one." Somehow, he was able to redeem one of his cars and we got into it on the road without any fuel in it. He told me, "Look, I've come to the end of my money. How can we drive without any gas?" We considered the possibilities, then got in touch with someone we knew who had an account at a filling station. We drove over there and filled the tank on credit, ready to go. After his ride, my old man was feeling expansive, as I knew he would be, and he looked over to my friend and asked him, How much money do you need? He replied, 3 lakh rupees. My senior Guru Maharaj twirled his mustache for a moment and then pulled off one of the rings on his fingers. He said to my friend, "This ring is for Saturn. Put it on and go to sleep for an hour, and then let me know what you see or hear." My friend and I had a low opinion of the whole drama, but he went off to sleep in the next room.
So one of the ways to test if a ring suits you or not is to wear it and see how you sleep. Because these rings, we do it in the Vastu and the energy field program. Each ring has a right side and a wrong side. So if you wear it in the ulta way, it'll create stress in your system. But one of the ways that astrologers want you to assess whether a ring is working for you or not, they will tell you to put it under your pillow and sleep, or wear it and sleep for a day to see how you feel about that ring. And then they will actually make you wear it permanently. We of course can test the ring using the lacquer antenna, the stones, whether it suits you or not, and it actually works.
Meanwhile, the old man and I were having a discussion. He was telling me, "I want you to go out and borrow as much money as you can at any rate of interest, even 1000% per day." I thought he was up to his old tricks again. One of his peculiarities is that you can give him any amount of money, even 10 million rupees, and within half an hour he'll come back to you and tell you he has spent all of it and needs more. The last time he was in Bombay, I warned a certain Maharani about him. I told her, "Give him anything he wants to eat, meat, fish, anything he wants. If he wants clothes, give him clothes. Give him perfume, give him flowers, give him anything you have. Please, but don't give him any money." I had to leave Bombay for some time, and when I returned, she told me I lost 10,000 rupees. I told her, "Look, I even took an oath from you that you wouldn't give him a paise." She said, "I don't know what came over me. I know what came over her, but that's a different story."
So the old man, took over her senses and made him give her the money, made him her give him the money.
So I thought he just wanted some money and was going to leave me in the lurch again. You have no idea how I pacified the Maharani and eventually arranged to have her reimbursed. And I had no intention of doing it all over again. I told him as much, and he told me there was nothing to worry about. And while we were arguing in this fashion, my friend came back from his sleep and announced, "I've seen two numbers." At that time, people used to bet on the opening and closing quotations of the New York Cotton Exchange. They would bet on the two numbers to the right of the decimal point, so we knew that what the two numbers stood for. They happened to be the same double digit number. My friend was impressed because someone had told him the number over and over until he couldn't forget it. I was still doubtful. My Guru Maharaj told me to go out and not to return until I had borrowed at least 10,000 rupees. I went to a money lender who explained all the interest rates and what have you to me, and I walked out of his shop with 9,000 rupees. That's the way they do things. They keep 10% as the first payment while they're charging you interest on the whole amount. When I got back to him, my senior Guru Maharaj told me to pull all of it in on the numbers. I flatly refused. Wasn't it enough to have contracted a debt of 10,000 rupees? If I was to lose all the money, I would be in a truly pitiable plight. My old man told me, "All right, I know you have no faith. Do one thing, bet 5,000 rupees and 1,000 rupees more for me." "You?" I asked. "What is the guarantee I'll ever be paid again? I know all about you." He looked at me and twirled his mustache and said, "I still have this, don't I?" My Senior Guru Maharaj was an emperor at one time in the same body long, long ago. I've seen his sword. I've seen coins with the imprint of his face stamped on them. And in this part of the world, a king's moustache or beard is equivalent to his honor. So to swear to me on his moustache that he would repay me showed the seriousness of the whole thing. Still, I warned him, listen, if you are going to mess everything up again, I am going to cut your throat from year to year. This time, I've had enough. He told me, my child, I will cut my own throat if I fail to deliver for you. There was nothing else left to say. I bet 6,000 rupees at 90 to 1. We sat around waiting for the results. I had lost all hope until the news came. The first number had come correct. I felt relieved and immediately said, let's cancel the bet because you could get paid 7 to 1 or something like that if the first number alone came. The old man told me, no, we've done it. Now we're going to see it through to the end. When the second number came, my astonishment knew no bounds. More than 500,000 rupees. Immediately, my senior Guru Maharaj said, repay your loan. After that, and after giving my friend what he needed and pocketing my share, because I was also broke at the time, I tried to give him his part of the winnings. Now, do you believe me? I kept my word. He taunted me. Take the 1,000 rupees which were in question and hire a musician so I can enjoy a nice night. That's all I want. We had beautiful music all night long, and the next day, my friend who had been impressed with the old man's power told him, my sister has been in bed between sandbags for the past 6 months with a broken spine. Can you do anything about it? The old man went to see her and gave her a hard slap, and in that instant, she became well, perfectly healed.
So many times these sages and spirits, they used to hit you with the shaft, or they used to give you a jerk, right? It's a method of actually shocking you into getting well also.
After finishing all the work, my senior Guru Maharaj took his ring back from my friend. He is very careful about such useful objects. And then he told him, I'll see that you get heaps and heaps of wealth, more than you can even dream of. But you must stop your whoring and whining. My friend looked at him and said, what would I do with heaps and heaps of money? How would I spend it? No thanks, I prefer to enjoy. And then it was the old man's turn to be astonished at how perverse human beings can be.
So it is all about materialistic desires, right? So we get stuck with the materialistic enjoyment and not remember the spiritualistic joy that we can actually connect to.
Once he and my foster daughter and I and a few others were all sitting talking together. My foster daughter had been pestering him for days to show her his true form. But when she would ask, he would tell her, I know who has been putting such things into your head, with a pointed glance at me. Don't pay any attention to him. As such things, are such things possible? My real form is the one you see right here. But a woman never gives up once she has set her mind to something. And this girl pestered him and pestered him until finally he said to her, how big was your father? Now, her father was a very hefty man and fairly tall as well. When she told him all this, he said, bring me one of your father's coats. She did, and he put it on. It fit him terribly, or rather, we thought it would, because he is so thin. But then we saw he had filled up the entire coat until it was bursting at the seams, and he had become so tall his head was near the ceiling. Then he caught himself and said to her, if I show you fully, Your ceiling will break and you will not be able to exist. And he became his normal size again. But she had had her glimpse. Then he told her, by seeing this, you have helped me in any way? By seeing this, have you helped me in any way? Ask me for something that is of some use to you. Usually, however, you cannot convince him to do anything. Even if you throw the filthiest language at him, he will say, those are all old words. Why not try to think of some new ones? He loves to play about and can be really jolly sometimes, but look out when he means business. For giving spiritual knowledge, there is no one to beat him anywhere in the world. Even my junior Guru Maharaj admits it. And if you ask him for spiritual knowledge, he will ask you in return, are you ready to be flayed alive? Meaning, are you ready for all your karmas to be ripped from you? If you say yes, you will suffer more terribly than you could ever dream you could suffer. But when you come through it, you will be ready. Put through the fire, gold becomes impervious to everything, and so will you.
So basically, when you are telling him that I am ready, he is clearing your field at a faster pace than what is normally necessary. So when because he's clearing it at a faster pace, then your suffering also becomes enhanced. Okay.
No one can fool him unless they play music for him. People have had made millions out of him, just as they have from me, simply by making him hear music. When he is overwhelmed by emotion, he might even give you the results of thousands of years of his penance. Then later he will realize what he has done and beg some favor from you in return. He's really very sweet that way. He should be generous, having been a king. Even now, some of that regality, that kingliness remains, despite the fact that when he left his throne for his sadhana, he renounced everything. Nowadays, you can't even meet him if you want to. No one knows where he has gone except me. He is by himself and he is no longer in his normal senses. He has gone mad with love for Krishna. He was the one to tell me that I would have to go to a guru from the south, my junior Guru Maharaj. I call him my junior Guru Maharaj because he is a disciple of my senior Guru Maharaj. So I am not only his disciple, I am his Guru Bhai, co disciple also. He says frankly that when he was young,
So a real guru will always guide you to the next person who's going to be able to teach you. Okay. if if the guru is a real guru and a real teacher, they will always make want for your progress. They will always want you to go. They're not going to want you to be stuck to them.
he says, when he was young, my senior Guru Maharaj used to feed him and look after him. So imagine how old my senior Guru Maharaj must be. No one knows how old either of them are, but if you look in my junior Guru Maharaj's mouth, you will see two full sets of teeth, one row right behind the other. They say you grow a new tooth after every 100 years. I don't know. If I tell you his origin, you won't believe me. When Lord Curzon was Viceroy of India at the turn of the century, archaeological excavations were going on in the state of Orissa. And in a cave in one hill, they discovered the perfectly preserved body of an old sadhu. Someone thought to call a man from the Jagannath temple in Puri who knew about samadhi and such things. And after massage and oil rubs, and I don't know what else, he was able to bring the sadhu down from his samadhi and back into consciousness of the world. That sadhu is my junior Guru Maharaj. I have met people who have known him ever since then, and they say his looks have not changed in the least up to the present day, except that in some places his hair has grayed.
So when you when you go into a state of samadhi, the entropy drops, right? So the aging in the body can also stop when you are going into that altered state of consciousness.
How I met him is a story in itself. I have always been fond of Maharajas, Emirs, and other rulers, and they have always been fond of me. There must be some link. I was trying to help a certain prince succeed his father as Maharaja, and one day I happened to ask an acquaintance if he knew of any sadhus who could help us out with his spiritual powers. He brought this sadhu to us. At first glance, he didn't look like much to me. Driving home from the railway station, this prince was telling the old sadhu about how his father was ruining the administration of the state and how well he would be able to rule if given an opportunity. Finally, the old man spoke. So, you want your father to die, eh? And as soon as we got down from the car and crossed the threshold into the house, word arrived from Delhi that the prince's father had died very suddenly. I thought to myself, yes, this man has some power. I was broke at the time and desperate, and there were races that day. I had decided to go and bet on the horses and sink or swim. When I told this to the sadhu, he took my wallet from me and put a pinch of ash into it and said to me, keep this with you and bet on whatever you see and hear. I laughed in his face and told him, Maharaj, this is Bombay. People are not such fools here to believe such nonsense. See and hear indeed. Still, I kept the envelope in my pocket and left for the races. Because he had insisted on sitting and chatting with me, I was late to arrive and missed the first three races. I started cursing him because my choices had won two of those races. Unnecessarily, I had wasted my opportunity to make money just because of some old fool and his ash. I decided to go back to him in the evening and beat him black and blue. While I was mired in this depression, I was standing under a tree near the bookie's enclosure, and I suddenly heard something telling me to bet on a certain horse. At first, I didn't believe I was hearing it, but once I believed, I decided to see what sort of horse it was. Well, on the racing form, it was hopeless. Besides that, the jockey Guman Singh had never won a race in his life, I thought. When he doesn't know what he's doing, why should the old man try to show off? How can I waste money on his guesswork? I decided to bet on another horse, my own choice, and told the number, which was 7, to the clerk and in the betting window. He accidentally gave me 65 rupee tickets on the horse whose number I had heard. His number was 8. When I realized this mistake, I bellowed to change the tickets, but it was too late. The race had started and the shutters on the betting windows had slammed down. I started cursing the old man more vehemently than before. My last 300 rupees, which I've been saving for an emergency, and I wasted it. What did I do to be introduced to such an unlucky old man? Running this thought over and over in my mind, I sat and watched the horse win. I couldn't believe it. I was rich. He paid 70 to 1. Incidentally, that was the one and only race Guman Singh ever won in his entire life. I had to admit my mistake and I started listening to the voice much more seriously. Over the whole day, I made 59,000 rupees, and after the last race, I went to a bar on Charni Road and I had a few more than my quota of drinks. I had made up my mind. I must keep a tight grip on this sadhu. He can make millions for me. It sounds ludicrous, doesn't it? But I was desperate for money, of course. I could have gone to the smashan and collected millions without working up a sweat. But I will never ask money from a spirit. Here was an old man, though, who seemed ready to provide me with winners just for the asking, and he would bear the karma. It seemed too good to be true. When I got back to the sadhu, he became wild with me the moment I stepped through the door. Ha! How dare you drink? What do you think of yourself? And so on. I coolly took the money I had made, laid it at his feet, and told him, Maharaj, please take as much as you like. Just agree to help me again next week.
So the sadhu knew exactly what he was doing, right? He knew that he had drunk and he had come to the comeback. So
This
again,
only made him
nothing is really hidden. We think we can hide, but we really can't hide.
this only made him wilder. He told my friends, go make him vomit and give him an enema. They worked on me over so well that by midnight I was almost sober again. When I went back into the sadhu's presence, he was still so infuriated that he took his fire tongs and gave me two whacks squarely across the right temple. Patak, patak. And then he told me, did you take birth for things like this? I had to tell him no, because those two blows gave me partial memory of my previous births, and I understood why I had been born where I was and what was expected of me in this life. This is why I respect him as my guru, not because he initiated me into a mantra, but because he helped me remember who I am.
Yeah. So again, the wax, right? It can stimulate something in you.
Maybe I should explain one thing here. Gambling has a catastrophic effect on the mind. Meat, alcohol, sex, these all cause temporary ruination of the consciousness, but the effects of gambling are permanent. If a man earns money at gambling, what does he spend it on? Rich food, alcohol, and other intoxications, and women. If he loses money, what happens? Envy, hatred. That fellow cheated me, and he was out to get me. Now I'll show him, I'll ruin him. The man becomes a cutthroat, literally, if he is of the lower class of men because he kills to regain his losses. Or, if he is more refined, he kills his enemy economically. Gambling is one of the three karmas which cannot be obliterated in the same lifetime. The other two are murder of the guru and rape.
So if any money which is acquired by uh, suspicious means, okay, will always result in creating a problem for you. This can be seen, many of these, I've had 4 or 5 cases where many of these government servants, they are earning money under the table, and you'll find that their children are in a mess most of the time, because this money they can't really spend officially, and then all sorts of things start happening to them.
This being the case, how can both my junior and senior Guru Maharajas have helped me through gambling? First of all, they never encouraged me to gamble, and they have always done their best to prevent me from doing so. But in both these instances, they knew I was out of money, and this was the most convenient way for them to help me. And they wanted to convince me of their abilities as well. And don't forget, this was really nothing like gambling. They knew ahead of time what was going to happen, and they just handed that information over to me. It's more like collecting interest on an investment than gambling. They do have to suffer for using their powers for such trivial things, of course, because no one is exempt from the law of karma. But they know how to minimize the penalty and they don't bother about such minor troubles. And besides, they are not in this habit of doing it daily, once only to serve their purposes. And very strange indeed are their purposes.
So this is important. Very strange indeed are their purposes because they know what they need to do. They have a vision for it. They are acknowledging what they have to do and then they go around doing it by whatever means possible.
By doing this, they saved me from an evil fate. I just told you that gambling is a permanent disease, and it was as true for me as for anyone else. But they cured me of it. Not that I gave it up altogether. I still bet whenever I see a good thing or when one of my own horses is running, and I enjoy directing how my horses work and deciding which races to run them in. It's a wonderful sport, horse racing. But I was an inveterate gambler, uncontrollable, and my junior Guru Maharaj brought me under control. I gamble now, but gambling doesn't control me like it did once. I control it. This does not mean you should gamble. I have known only a handful of people to enter the race course and then leave it again before losing their money, character, or balance of mind. I was exceedingly lucky because my Guru Maharaj was willing to take my evil karmas on himself. He knew exactly how to deal with them. Truly, my mentors are wonderful, and they have always been so gentle and kind to me, I don't know why. My junior Guru Maharaj can also be extremely strict when necessary. No mistake about it. There was one Bihari Das who lived near him several years ago. Bihari Das was a good Aghori, but something of a bully. He would trouble all the other sadhus in the area. They would come down with diseases, and, and Guru Maharaj would cure them. Bihari Das came to know that what Guru Maharaj was doing, and his ego was hurt. Who is this fellow trying to undo what I do? I must kill him. But how to kill him? Guru Maharaj doesn't eat or drink, so there was no possibility of poisoning him that way. Does he smoke ganja? Yes. So one day, Bihari Das came to meet my Guru Maharaj and told him, Maharaj, I have decided that I must make you smoke this chilam of ganja as a token of my respect for you. I happened to be there at the time and I immediately knew what Bihari Das had in mind. I said, why should Guru Maharaj take anything from you? I will smoke it. Bihari Das got wild. Who are you to interfere? My desire is to see Maharaj smoke this chilam. Guru Maharaj said to me, don't worry, Babuji, I'll smoke it. The chilam was lit and in two puffs, only two, Guru Maharaj finished the whole thing and then put it big end down on the ground.
So again, he got an inkling, right? What was it? And he had the power to
Transmute it.
transcend it, transmute it as well as transcend it.
Then Guru Maharaj said to Bihari Das, I know why you wanted me to smoke that chilam. I know what sort of love you have for me. Unfortunately for you, your time is up. You have only 15 minutes left. Now get out of this ashram, and in 5 minutes he was dead. As for Guru Maharaj, he had to suffer terribly for 6 months, boils on his body, dimness of vision, and so on. I
So,
have also,
so there's this movie, The Green Mile. Okay. In that, there is this prisoner who has the ability to actually suck out the energy or the negativity from another person and then transfer it to another person. So he's a healer. So same thing over here. When you draw something from someone else, then you have to suffer that pain. So they were suffering the pain. But the point here is that these people who are at a transcendental state, they can heal themselves much faster than normal people. So they have the ability to take on the pain of others. The story about Jayadayalji Gonka Nanaji, he had this ability to be able to take on someone's pain. And if someone had a boil or something, it used to appear on his body. and that person used to get cured, and then he used to cure it. So there are various stories like this about him also. But over here, many of these people, they have this ability to take on the pain of someone else.
I have also been troubled by such people. There is a fellow in Bombay who has tried to poison me 3 times with ganja mixed with arsenic, aconite, and so on, and each time he lands himself in the hospital and then begs me to cure him. But I also have to suffer for some time. That is just the way things work. My junior Guru Maharaj is really an unusual old man. He has roamed all over the world, but no one knows how he does it. When one fellow asked if he had been to London, he replied, "Yes, they have a railway there that goes under the ground. I've seen all those things." And when this fellow asked him how long ago he was there, he told him 400 years. What can you say about that? He is a type entirely different from my senior Guru Maharaj, a miser. He will not let anything out. He is just like a stone. In fact, he will advise you become just like a shivling. What he means is don't let anything affect you. No happiness, no sorrow, nothing. Absolutely firm. When he goes anywhere, he will sit in one room only, never going out or moving around. Sometimes he stays in one place for 12 years at a time. He never eats or drinks. At the most, he takes cow's milk if you really force him to. And once he leaves a place, he will never go back there again. He is still very old fashioned and believes strongly in purity and impurity because he is still doing his sadhana every day. You see, he has done terrific sadhana all his life. He has done such penances that even my senior Guru Maharaj has admitted that there is no one in India, and that means in the world, to beat him at doing penances. He is very strict, but he loves to play about in his own way. His play of a different age. He believes in sacrifice and he expects everyone else to also. So he will frequently cause trouble for someone in order to pull that person out of some entanglement. Of course, he doesn't actually cause the trouble. He just causes certain karmas to come out of that person's causal body and be projected. Since he always causes the bad karmas to be projected, to purge the causal body of all its evil influences, this will always lead to misery. No one wants to accept responsibility. They want to enjoy all their good karmas and avoid all the bad ones. One day, a man had a nice dinner of very spicy food, full of chilies, followed by ice cream. Next morning, when he squatted to defecate, he screamed, "Ice cream first, ice cream first." Only when you are miserable will you remember God. You will never think of Him otherwise, unless you are a true saint. Guru Maharaj is here to make people remember God, not to make them rich or famous. I will give you a written guarantee, if you like, to the effect that after you meet Guru Maharaj, everything will start going wrong in your life. That's just the way he works, the old crude way. But that's the way he is. Once a friend of mine came and asked me to take him to Guru Maharaj. I knew what sort of person this fellow was. He was called Bal Yogi, child yogi, or Kabiraj, king of poets, and he used to sing devotional songs in praise of the divine mother, Jai Ambe, and so on. He liked most to have plenty of female disciples. You know what I'm getting at. His brother was dead, and he made a big show out of taking care of his brother's wife. Actually, he developed an illicit relationship with her. I thought it only fair to warn him. Watch out, Guru Maharaj may do something. He told me, have, ha, you only want to keep him for yourself. Why not let other people get the benefit of his powers? I'm sure he'll give me something. I had warned him my job was over.
When we warn people, right, we have to just put it in there in front of them. Then it becomes their responsibility to take it or leave it. Okay, so this becomes important over here.
You know, when I visit my Guru Maharaj, I don't say anything. I sit in one corner. When I feel like it, I get up and walk out. Everyone else thinks I am very rude and insolent and very foolish for not sitting with him. Only he and I know what is going on. When he was last in Bombay, he would make everyone go to sleep and then we would exchange the notes in our own way, a way in which words are not required.
So most of the time, when you go into the presence of an evolved person, you really don't need to say anything. Whatever needs to be communicated generally will get automatically communicated.
I am most shameless. I fight with my Guru Maharaj. I tell him what is the use of an ashram. The whole world should be your ashram. Then he gets wild on me. It is only in the past few years that he has had an ashram, and only now his hair is starting to turn grey. It was always jet black before. So this friend and I went to Guru Maharaj, who was in Bombay at the time, in 1959. Now you don't need to tell anything to Guru Maharaj. All he has to do is look at you and he knows every bit. And this fellow made another mistake. He started to recite Sanskrit verses to Guru Maharaj, trying to show off his wisdom. Guru Maharaj is a man who, after being dug out of the cave, spent 12 years on the branch of a tree doing jap, never touching the ground even once. Could this man teach him anything? Suddenly, Guru Maharaj smiled, scribbled something down on a piece of paper, and handed it to my friend, telling him, keep this with you always. Wave incense before it daily. When you sit for worship, sit on top of it, then put it under your pillow when you sleep. As we left, my friend smiled knowingly at me and said, so, Guru Maharaj did something good for me after all. But I knew better. I could see that Guru Maharaj was going to have this man's hide.
So again, you can't fiddle around with them, right? They understand what is happening and they can actually create a problem for you. I think we can stop here. It's 15. Okay, so pretty simple today. Anyone, anything to say?